When did everyone in class have to save the teacher? Mrs. Sandoval walked into class carrying an empty pickle jar and placed it on her desk. We need to get this filled up with $1,000 by the end of the week. Before we could ask why, she explained that her 6-year-old son Darian was in the hospital with a serious condition and needed to stay there for specialized treatment. The jar started filling up immediately. Brian dropped in a 20, Sage added her lunch money, and soon everyone was contributing whatever they could. By the end of Monday, the jar had about $200. Mrs. Sandoval thanked us with tears in her eyes and carefully placed the jar on the corner of her desk where everyone could see it. Tuesday brought more donations. Kids from other classes heard about Darian. The football team took up a collection. Drama Club donated their fundraiser profits. By lunch, the jar was nearly 3/4 full, and Mrs. Sandoval was beaming. She broke down crying tears of joy during lab experiments, and we could see her glancing at the filling jar throughout class. Someone had taped a photo of Darian to the side, a sweet kid with glasses holding a toy dinosaur. But then Wednesday morning, everything changed. Mrs. Sandoval arrived to find her classroom door already open, and the money jar gone. Her desk drawers had been pulled out and papers were scattered everywhere. The photo of Darian was on the floor, torn in half. She stood frozen in the doorway before letting out a sound I'll never forget. The principal was called immediately along with school security. They reviewed camera footage from the hallway, but the angles didn't show who entered the room. The only thing visible was a figure in dark clothing, carrying something jar-shaped around 6 a.m. Everyone was questioned, but nobody admitted to seeing anything suspicious. The whole school was in uproar, and the school board held an emergency meeting about the theft. Meanwhile, Mrs. Sandoval sat at her desk, staring at the empty spot where the jar had been. Principal Williams made an announcement that the theft was being investigated by local police. He said anyone with information should come forward immediately. He also said the school would try its best to reimburse the stolen money from emergency funds so Darian could still get treatment, but bureaucracy moved slowly, and forms needed approval from the district office. Thursday passed with no leads on the thief. Mrs. Sandoval barely taught, just went through the motions while obviously devastated. We tried to restart collections, but the principal said no more money jars for liability reasons. The GoFundMe page Haley created was gaining traction, but not fast enough. Darian needed the treatment by Friday. That's when things got weird. During lunch, I saw Mr. Campbell from the history department acting strangely by his car. He kept looking around nervously while loading something into his trunk. When he saw me watching, he quickly slammed it shut and walked away. Something about his behavior seemed off, but I couldn't place why. After school, I mentioned it to Brian, who said he'd noticed Mr. Campbell had been absent Wednesday morning. Sagey chimed in that she'd seen him near the science wing early that day when she'd arrived for jazz band practice. We started piecing together timeline details that made us suspicious. Mr. Campbell's classroom was right down the hall from Mrs. Sandoval's. We decided to do our own investigation since the official one was going nowhere. Haley distracted Mr. Campbell with questions about his class, while Brian and I snuck into his room. We didn't find anything obvious, but Sage noticed his trash can had glass fragments at the bottom. They looked like they could be from a jar. Friday morning, the janitor found the empty money jar in the dumpster behind the school. It had been wiped clean of fingerprints, but one detail stood out: a parking pass sticker on the bottom, the kind teachers put on items to mark them for the lost and found. The number on the sticker led directly to Mr. Campbell's assigned parking spot. Security footage from the parking lot showed Mr. Campbell throwing a bag into the dumpster Thursday evening. When confronted by police, he broke down and confessed. He'd stolen the money to pay off gambling debts that were destroying his marriage. He justified it by telling himself the school would reimburse it anyway, so Darian wouldn't suffer. The money was gone, already paid to his creditors. Mr. Campbell was arrested and led out in handcuffs while everyone watched. Mrs. Sandoval had to be physically restrained from attacking him. The school rushed through the emergency funds, but by then it was too late. Darian had been transferred to a different facility that morning. I visited Mrs. Sandoval at her home that weekend. She'd taken leave from teaching to be with Darian full-time. She looked exhausted, but managed a weak smile when she saw me at her door. I gave her an envelope with money collected from students outside of school. She hugged me and invited me in for tea. We sat in her kitchen, surrounded by medical bills and insurance paperwork. She told me Darian was stable but not improving at the new facility. They were still hoping to get him back to the specialty hospital once funds were available. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. The detective called this morning. They found evidence Mr. Campbell had help. Another teacher knew about the theft and helped plan it. I stared at her in shock. Full story on channel linked below.